It seems like the last decade was challenging for most, millennials especially. I'm turning 30 this year, and every aspect of life over the last 10 years has been difficult, whether it's financial, emotional, spiritual, less and less people gravitating towards God, worshiping and idolizing men and women and status and materialism. But something changed in the last, let's say, 2 years max. It seems like a great awakening is unfolding around the world, and the millennials especially, and maybe the boomers too. The boomer generation is playing a very important role in all of this. We rose up, we voted with our conscience, we voted to take back power from our governments. We are exposing evil in all of our institutions, whether it's academia, Hollywood, the media, the government. We're creating earthquakes around the world, from Lebanon to France with the yellow vests, to Hong Kong, to Taipei. The list goes on and on, Chile. But even still, we sometimes struggle. We struggle because we're shaking off the habits formed over the last 10 years. We're shaking off all of the negativity we've gotten accustomed to. And we try to wake up every single day with new lenses on, a new outlook. And for most, it's not easy. Trust me. Over the last couple of episodes, I come off as super optimistic, but that's because usually I am optimistic when I record these things. But some weeks are harder than others. And those are the weeks where I try to count out all of the blessings collectively as humanity we're seeing around the world. Episode 6, I'm going to talk more about this global peace initiative. I want to sprinkle in some of the good news that is underreported. And it's definitely not going to be trending on Twitter, because the only BS that seems to trend on Twitter are things like World War III, Orange Man bad, Epstein didn't kill himself. So join me this episode and let's break it down. Let's feel better. I hope you all had a great week. This is Red Zaatar. It's the Global Peace Initiative. Warrior. Every generation loves to point out how they're the luckiest, most special generation to live. And that's human nature. You don't want to live in a generation where you feel it's second best, where you'd rather live, let's say, in the Renaissance period or the period of the Vikings. It's normal for us to want to magnify the importance of the times that we live in, right? But the problem with most people, especially if you're not focusing too much on politics and on current events, and you're just focusing on pop culture and music, news, etc., you miss how important this generation really is. You miss all the good news that's happening in the news around the world. And I want to break down at least some of the things that come to mind. I don't write notes, I just talk. So bear with me. Did you ever think in your generation you would see a space force not only be proposed, but be established, set up, funded, and about to launch publicly in the next couple of months? What did the military get the world in technology? Didn't they bless us with the internet due to military budgets and the massive war funding that most governments want to allocate? Space race here. We got to beat the Soviet Union there. We got to keep on fighting. We got to keep on spending. How do we advance our public? That was the thinking during the peak of our technological advancements. In the last 30 years, all we've been seeing is better iterations of our technology, but nothing really crazy. The last disruptive technology we saw was the iPhone, was the smartphone, all built using components that were generated back in the 60s. Invented back in the 60s. And since then, a lot of these technology companies and the government contractors, military contractors, kept everything under wraps. All the real disruptive technology that could get us away from fossil fuels, that could get us away from being enslaved by the system. system of paying your bills every month, working 2 jobs, 3 jobs, or working one where you're barely getting by. To take a trip somewhere, you have to save up for a year, some of us, just to have a week vacation, and you come back broke. What kind of existence is that? So Trump comes out and he announces the Space Force, and most people laughed it off. Oh, he wants to be like the next Captain Kirk. Think about the gravity of the situation, no pun intended. With the Space Force and all the funding that'll be going to it, and the urgency of us, the face of China, of Russia doing the same, the next 5 to 10 years will not look anything like the last 40 or 50. It's hard for us to grasp this reality because we're too busy worried about going to work right now. Our car broke down. Our boyfriends, our girlfriends yelled at us. We're in fights. We're being petty. We can't control our drinking. We can't control our bad habits. We're unable to think bigger picture because we're so bogged down by the little picture. And a lot of it is self-inflicted, but there is a role to play for society and the way society's been formed to keep us in these cycles, enslaved to our bills, enslaved to our habits, enslaved to our relationships. The Space Force is going to do wonders for our technology. CES was last week and it was nothing exciting. Who cares about a Sony electric car? I don't. Who cares about a Toyota woven city where they're going to test new technologies and have their workers living there and buying and doing their shopping in that city, and it's going to have infrastructure and utilities and all this BS. Nobody cares, dude. All these billions of dollars and people are still living in poverty. All these billions and trillions of dollars every single year between companies and countries. And there's people still in debt, thousands if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, trying to study, trying to do good in this world. I don't think this is what this existence was built on. I don't think this whole life was meant to look like this. The architects of this society, of this economy, of this whole global economic structure built it this way. They don't struggle like most of the people do. If you're listening to this, most probably the 1% of society isn't struggling like you are. Everybody's got their problems and everything is relative, I'll admit that. But they're not worried about their car breaking down trying to get to work. They're not worried about, oh wow, I gotta work on a Saturday, my co-worker just called off. So Space Force is going to do some wonders, and we need to always keep that in mind, especially when you're having those bad days. Remember the fact that the next few months to few years, we're going to be so awestruck. That childlike wonder that most people forget about because life sucks it out of you, it's going to come back to us slowly but surely. But it's more than that. It's not just Space Force. We have the leader of the free world openly advocating and acting in ways to advance peace around the world. Last week we talked about this World War III debacle. And over the last few days, more and more developments underlined our view of where this is all going. I want to play a clip from Trump's speech the day after Iran fired all those missiles on our military base in Iraq. It's going to tell you all you need to know and how much faith you should have in the future of humanity. Check it out and let's talk about it.
As long as I'm president of the United States, Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Good morning. I'm pleased to inform you the American people should be extremely grateful and happy. No Americans were harmed in last night's attack by the Iranian regime. We suffered no casualties. All of our soldiers are safe, and only minimal damage was sustained at our military bases. Our great American forces are prepared for anything. Iran appears to be standing down, which is a good thing for all parties concerned and a very good thing for the world.
Isn't it nice to finally have a president that talks with common sense? If you were in that position and you were faced with the prospect of either starting war, escalating the situation, or pushing your adversary to sitting down and talking with you, which choice would you make? Trump seems to be playing down an event that didn't need to be escalated, no casualties, in order to push Iran to the bargaining table. He goes on to say this.
In recent months alone, Iran has seized ships in international waters, fired an unprovoked strike on Saudi Arabia, and shot down 2 U.S. drones. Iran's hostilities substantially increased after the foolish Iran nuclear deal was signed in 2013, and they were given $150 billion, not to mention $1.8 billion in cash. Instead of saying thank you to the United States, they chanted death to America. In fact, they chanted death to America the day the agreement was signed. Then Iran went on a terror spree, funded by the money from the deal, and created hell in Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and Iraq. The missiles fired last night at us and our allies were paid for with the funds made available by the last administration. The regime also greatly tightened the reins on their own country, even recently killing 1,500 people at the many protests that are taking place all throughout Iran. Iran can be a great country. Peace and stability cannot prevail in the Middle East as long as Iran continues to foment violence, unrest, hatred, and war. The civilized world must send a clear and unified message to the Iranian regime. ISIS is a natural enemy of Iran. The destruction of ISIS is good for Iran, and we should work together on this and other shared priorities. Finally, to the people and leaders of Iran, we want you to have a future, and a great future, one that you deserve, one of prosperity at home and harmony with the nations of the world. The United States is ready to embrace peace with all who seek it. I want to thank you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, doesn't that sound like music to your ears? Not only are we laying down the fact that we are now an energy superpower with an economic boom that's not happening anywhere else in the world, but we're also laying down the fact that we have the strongest military. And it's not to threaten, it's to make you know, the good guys and the bad guys, that because of this strong military, we don't want to use it. We're not in a place of weakness anymore. We could choose the path of peace only if the adversary seeks it as well. So it's a beautiful thing to watch. It's exciting. Nobody expected this. I don't even think I expected that kind of response from Trump. But the night of the missile attack on the army base or on the military base in Iraq, I started questioning why weren't there any casualties? Even, there weren't any Iraqi casualties either. Why did Iran give Iraq a 2-hour heads up before striking? Didn't they know that Iraq was going to tell the U.S. what to expect? It seemed to be more like a saving face action rather than an intentional act of war. Another good sign for peace. That means both parties, the USA and Iran, after the killing of Soleimani, the biggest terrorist in the world, are now working towards actual freedom for both people. Iran and the US. No more boogeymen in the world. That's why I'm thinking 2020 is the year of global peace. Kim Jong-un is riding on a white horse, symbolically representing a pure, innocent, blank canvas, if you will. With all that laying down the stage for this week, here's what we have to expect. We have Davos, Globalist Central, meeting this week on the 17th. Trump is going to be there, and that's the hyena den. Those are the people that don't mess with Trump. He's there to lay down the law. Let them know exactly what to expect over the next year. And every time he's been there, he always lays down the beauty of nationalism and of national sovereignty, which is antithetical to everything these guys stand for. Everybody at Davos is globalist. They don't want borders. They don't want nations. They want bureaucratic hubs of governance, eventually being one hub that runs the world's currency, runs the world's military, banking system, etc., etc. China, phase 1, is getting signed on the 15th in a couple of days. This first part of the deal is going to address the biggest, most important concerns that we have with China: their currency manipulation, their closed down financial sector, their agriculture threats and purchases. They usually buy $16 billion, that's the high number, every year from our farmers here in America. Where do you think that number is going to be after this deal is signed? Do you think it's 20, maybe 30? How about 40? No. The actual number is $50 billion of agriculture purchases every year. We don't even produce that much. And Trump even says to all the farmers out there, go buy bigger tractors, buy bigger lands, invest into your farms. Not only is he giving everybody a leg up with these trade deals, all the people on the ground, not the corporations, but he's also motivating them to be better, to do more, to grow. There's more room out there for farmers, for small family farms to become just as big, if not a little smaller, than Purdue. Imagine the quality of the food when you have that much competition. There's so many side benefits that happen with all of these things that are going on. It's exciting to watch. And it leads to peace. These are all things that will lead to peace. China is considered our biggest adversary. This whole deal, phase 1 of the deal, doesn't resolve our concerns with them over IP theft. It doesn't resolve the fact that they're building up their military in order to flex on us, the space race. It doesn't do any of that. But what it does is it breaks down the Communist Party's control over that country. It allows for more freedom to slowly trickle into China. It's something to watch over the next couple of years, but it's important to watch. So global peace, 2020. What a time to be alive. Take off the visors, take off the blinkers, and just focus. Just take a look. Don't listen to the news. Sit down in silence and get a whiff of the energy going around. The energy outside, external of us, it's well and good. Good things are happening in the world. Internally, we're going through a lot of strife, but that's because we're growing. We're transforming. And through that transformation, you come out stronger. You come out ready for this next iteration of reality. A world where peace and prosperity for all is the reality, is the new paradigm. Now, on a side note, this is also important to mention. All the people out there that have been monitoring this deep state attempted takedown of our president have been yearning for some justice. Attorney General Barr, where's the D-class? Durham, where are you at with the indictments? Huber, why are you saying you have no evidence against Hillary Clinton after a 2-year investigation? What the hell are you doing out there? It seems like on the justice front, we keep getting let down. The deep state is still operating and it's functioning. Some people were fired out of government, but nobody's going to jail. These people committed real crimes. They didn't just roll up a joint. They kill, they steal, they corrupt, they abuse, but yet they walk free. Not only is this year the year of global peace, but we have such an existential election coming up that I expect a ton of shakeups. I expect indictments. I expect people going to jail and the exposure of the corruption of the deep state, and that includes Republicans and Democrats. The establishment doesn't see party. They only want you to have a party so that you're divided. Just like they want you to divided by sex now, they want you divided by religion. The list goes on and on. The corruption earthquake, we'll call it. It starts this week. Nancy Pelosi's finally decided to actually deliver the articles of impeachment to the Senate, forced to do it, because she was expecting to hold on to those weak articles until the State of the Union, to have it cover Trump in a dark cloud as he delivers his State of the Union speech. But she was unable to hold out that long. So I'm a bit confused, and I'll tell you why. She's bringing them to the Senate. And Trump has been playing two sides of this situation and what he wants to happen with the Senate. On one hand, he wants the Senate to simply dismiss all these articles of impeachment. No need for a trial. Let's move on, right? But on the other hand, he wants the trial to take place, and he wants people like Joe Biden, Adam Schiff, Where's Hunter, Nancy Pelosi, who else? The whistleblower. He wants all of these guys to testify at the trial. What did you know? When did you know it? And how did you find out? All very important questions that they had orchestrated to take down our president. For the last 3 years, that's all we've been seeing is a group of cabal vampires trying to take down our president. The only president in our lifetime that's actually representing the people, that isn't simply representing special interests and big corporation, no matter what the media wants to tell you. So she's going to deliver these articles this week, and the only way we're going to find out what Trump really wants to do with this is to see how McConnell plays out. If they thought they didn't have a worthy adversary in Trump and the Republicans, they got another thing coming. We want them to be surprised. They've been surprised and they've been getting beat the last 3 years. And it's about time that this whole thing explodes in some justice. Some perp walks, people. So with that being said, it should be a good week ahead. And the only way we can really enjoy our time on this planet is to remove the fear and the doubt and the depression that most media and most social media seems to push on us. And try to live in the moment. It's cliche, I know it's been said multiple times before, but it's important to remember. Following the news, if you really care about politics, by following the sources rather than the messengers, will save you so much time and money and headaches. It doesn't remove some of the sadness that you might feel from your own personal problems and situations, but it helps you get to work on the root of the problem. Instead of having either rose-colored glasses or shit-colored glasses, you just have your regular eyesight. That's all you need. You don't need to lie to yourself about what's happening in the world, but at the same time, it's not as bad as you think and it's not as good as you think. It just is. And if you imagine this whole reality to simply be a movie that we're watching, a really good one, how good do we think that ending is going to be? Every really good movie has a really good ending, and that's what I'm expecting of this whole shebang. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I hope next week we come back to each other in better moods and better spirits. And I hate to always mention it, but let's grow the channel, people. Let's spread the word, share it with your friends, especially those that really care about politics and news and current events. And give me some feedback. Whatever you guys think I should do better, do more of, less of. I'd love to hear your opinions on it. It's Red Zaatar, people. I've been me. You've been you. My name's Ali. And on to the next week. Have a great one.
Warrior.